Okay, this question comes to us from a friend of mine named Derek. And Derek was asking, how do I transfer data from an Access database into Excel programmatically using a button or something like that? So what we're going to show here first is we've got an Excel worksheet just called Target. The worksheet's named Flintstones, and there's no data on it. I just wanted to show the worksheet at the beginning. It has no data. We're going to go ahead and close that down now. And we'll look over at our Access database. Now we're demoing this in Access 2010, but the same concepts and the same code should work in previous versions of Access. So what we have here is we have a query. We're going to call it Query Flintstones. And if I run that, you see I get about 6 records back. Okay? So what we want to do is export that to the Excel sheet by using a button. So I'm going to go in here and show you the VBA code to do that particular function. Okay, the first thing you have to do when you open up your VBA code is you have to make sure you have a reference set to the Excel library of routines. So to do that, you go to your Tools menu and go to References, and make sure that you have Microsoft Excel 14.0 Object Library, or whatever version of Excel you have. It could be 10.0, 8.0. That will enable your Excel objects to work in the code. So the first couple things we're going to do is we have to define a variable to represent the Excel application. We're going to open that up in the background. And then we're going to set a workbook variable to reference the worksheet that we want to actually paste the query's data into. And we're going to call that WB Target. The next two variables we're going to set up are QDF Flintstones. And the QDF Flintstones is going to represent a query definition. Now, query definition is basically in VBA and Access how you can reference a query that's been pre-built. And you'll see when we get in the code, it's pretty simple once we get to it. And the last thing is the record set. The record set is going to be all the rows that are returned from actually doing the query that we call through the query definition. Okay, so we've set up our variables with dimension statements. Okay, they're all going to be object variables. And now we got to actually start using the code to call those routines. So the first thing we're going to do is set the reference to the query that we want to use. Okay, so we're going to say set QDF Flintstones equal to the current DB, that's kind of an Access global variable, current database, dot query defs, that's the collection of queries in your database, and then just put in parentheses the name of your query that you want to call. Okay, as we scroll down, we're going to set up a parameter later. We're not going to do that in this unit. Then we want to execute that query. So we're going to set our record set variable equal to the query definition dot open record set, and that will just run that query and it will return any records from that query to the Flintstones variable. Okay, now we've got our records back from VBA and Access, so now we have to put them into Excel. So the first thing we have to do is set up our Excel application variable, and we do that by saying set Excel equal to create object and Excel.application in parentheses. Okay? Now that we've opened Excel, we want to open the workbook we want to push those records to. So we're going to set our target workbook variable equal to Excel, it's our application variable, dot workbooks, that's our collection of workbooks. Since it isn't open yet, we have to actually open it. Dot open, and then in the parameter for that open method, you want to actually put in the full file name and path of the Excel sheet you want to put the data in. So in my case, it's on the C drive in the work directory, and it's the target.xlsx workbook. Once I have created that workbook variable, then I want to make sure the sheet is ready to have the data. So I'm going to reference my target workbook. I'm going to go to the worksheet that I want to put it on. I'm going to put it on worksheet Flintstones. And then I'm going to go to the cells method and I'm going to clear contents. That will clear all the contents from that Excel workbook. Once I've cleared the contents from my workbook, then I'm ready to paste in the data from my query into the Excel worksheet. So I go down here, and Excel and Access are great because they work so well together. There's a very useful tool to paste right into Excel, and it's fast. So you start off by referencing the workbook, then the worksheet you want to paste to, and give it the name. I use the cells method to reference the cell that I want to start with, and that's just row and column. So dot cells 1, 1, that's really the same as saying start pasting at cell A1. That right there represents a range. This represents a range object. Well, the range object in Excel has a really cool method. It's called copy from record set. And what you do is you just reference copy from a record set, and then your parameter, you put a space, you just put the name of the record set that has all the data you want to go to Excel, and it will paste it right into Excel. And the neat thing is it's really fast, it's really robust, it puts it right in there, and you're done. So that's it. All you had to do was, open your query, reference your query, open the Excel workbook, clear the contents, and then paste it. Now the last couple things we need to do is clean up our object variables and make sure our workbook is saved. One of the things about doing it this way is that everything you do in Excel is in the background. You're not going to see Excel open up or do any of this work. It's just happening in the background. So the first thing we have to do is reference our workbook and save it, and then we'll reference our workbook and close it. And now we set our object variables equal to nothing. It's kind of just good practice to set them out. So set the WB target equal to nothing, then set the Excel variable to nothing, then set the query definition equal to nothing. Okay? So now we've done all the VBA code for our whole routine. Let's go and look at the workbook and see what it actually did. So if I go back to Excel, I can go back now and I can open up my target worksheet, and it's not there. Oh, I know why, because I didn't run the routine yet. So let me run the routine. You see how fast that was. I'll go to Excel again and open up target worksheet, and you see my data has been pasted in there from that VBA code. Okay, so I'll close that Excel sheet down now, and the last thing I could do, I'll get out of my Visual Basic, go back to Access, and the last thing I want to do is make that into a form. So close these down here. Now all I do there is I went to the Create, I went to a blank form. Now I can just put a button on that form, and I want it to run code. So I will just cancel this out so I can do my look at my properties here, and in the click event I'm going to have it run code. Okay, so I'll go over to my design view, and I'm on the button. I'll go to my events, go to my event procedure, command 0.click. I'm going to view my project explorer, and my routine is actually called export to Excel. So I can double click that and put that in the code for that button, save that, close it, go back to Access, and now when I view that, you should be able to click that button and it'll run that code and put it out to Excel. So there you have it. That's kind of a rundown of a good way to take an Access query and export it to Excel using some internal features of VBA that are really fast and efficient, and hope that helps.